Good morning, traders. This is a live trade recap. I took one trade this morning with Webull 5.0. I have it on video. We're going to go over everything right now. Now that I'm using Webull 5.0, I have built this custom screener, which I have a video that I released a couple days ago showing you how to do it. And this is found on my Customize tab. And I have the top gainers list up. I have the quotes up, so I could check the float size. And I also have the active list up so that I can only trade the stocks that are trading with the highest volume, because to me, in my experience, volume is the biggest catalyst to drive the price of a stock up. Of course, it could also drive the price of a stock down if it's in the red here, but I combine this with the top gainers list and the float size, and then I find what I'm going to trade. So for example, today around 9:40, Prpo popped up on the active list. It wasn't there up until about 9:39 or 9:40, I believe. And as soon as I noticed that it was there, I clicked on it. I checked the free float size. It meets my criteria of 100 million shares or less. SPCE was also on my watch because it was at the very top of the volume, meaning that it was trading more than any other stock there is. So even though the free float size was a little bit above my desired float size, since it had so much volume, it went on my list anyway, although it didn't give a trade, and I'll show you that. But if it's number one on volume, I'll entertain it up to about 500 million shares. So back to Prpo, it meets the float size requirement, and it's also on the top gainers list, or at least it was that. Yeah, here's number 3. And I believe it was number 3 when I was trading it. It's interesting to note, NEGG is the very top gainer. It does not meet my criteria to look for a trade because it's not one of the most active stocks being traded, even though it does meet the float size requirement. So anyway, I did put that on the on my stocks page just so you could see kind of what went on with the top gainer, and you know, why I think I'm testing it right now. I want to test 100 trades doing this. Why I think this combination of screeners is going to really increase the probability of being in a winning trade. So let's get to the video now and you'll see what I'm talking about. So here's NEGG. That was the very top gainer, and I wrote a little note here just so I wouldn't get confused if I had a bunch of stocks on and off here. That does happen sometimes. So not tradable until it's on the active list and above the previous high, right? So it wasn't on the active list at all in the morning, and as I said, it was the very top gainer on the list, but noticed all it was doing was selling off. So that's why this additional criteria is helpful to kind of filter out stocks that are not going to increase in price. Is it foolproof? Definitely not. We're going to find out after 100 trades just how good it works. But in theory, it should work pretty well. SPCE, that was the number 1 on the active, and I believe it was also on the top gainers list. Let's see, is it up there now? It's up 14%, so it should be right there. So, okay, so yeah, so that one meets the criteria. It doesn't meet the float size, but since it's number 1, it kind of bypasses that. But notice it doesn't meet my chart criteria. So my chart criteria says that the stock must be trading above the previous high of, so the previous session, like the pre-market, aftermarket, and previous day. If it's not doing that, then I can't look for a trade. And you could see that it didn't give any trades. Even though it kind of popped up at the open, it sold off, and if you tried to catch a reversal, you would have been squashed. So that's why I don't take that trade. I'm not saying it never works. This stock could have reversed here and gone up and made new highs, but in my experience, that doesn't work often enough to take the chance. So I've gotten burned doing that a bunch of times. So I don't do that. I wait until it gets above the previous high, and if it doesn't, I don't take a trade. Simple as that. So the one trade I did take today, here's Prpo. So that must be about the time, let's see, actually it was a little later. It says it's 9:49 right now, so it probably popped up, I think, on this candle. So I think I maybe missed it by a couple of minutes, at least as far as when it popped up on the active list. And at this point, it had made a brand new high, and now it was pulling back. So I'm waiting for a 1-minute candle to make a new high. I did check, and all of this is above the previous session's high and the previous day high. So it does meet my requirements to look for a trade. There you can see there's the previous high right there. And then I even went back to the previous day, because it must also be trading above that. The previous day, the high was 443. So obviously it's trading higher than that. So it chops around a bit, but it never made a new high on a 1 minute candle, so it never triggered an entry. And I was trying to figure out, where I would consider this ABCD pattern failed, because it was a little bit ambiguous because there were some pullbacks along the way. And I like to take the entry after the very first pullback, but as you can see, there wasn't much volume back here when all of this was happening. So this wasn't on the lists yet. So once it got on my list and all that volume came in, I still decided to look for an entry. And probably the place where you could say that definitely this is going to be a failed trade before you even enter is, let's say it continued to pull back without making new highs all the way past this previous high. If it does that, then I would not enter in a long position on this trade because it's just too risky at that point. So let's see what happens. I did put a line here kind of where there was like there should have been local support. And I wasn't too interested in entering if it broke down below that. It did kind of retest that area and then it curled around. So if it would have flushed down below that area, I definitely would not have taken this entry. So it comes down right to where I was looking for support. And then you can see I'm hovering over this candle. 484 is the high of this candle, so 485 is my entry. My entry is about to come up here in just a second. There's 484. There, you see it popped up to 486, and that's when I triggered my hotkeys to buy the ask, and I got filled at 484. My ideal entry was 485, so I got in 1 cent cheaper, but that also makes the trade a little bit less, reduces the reward of the trade by 2 cents per share because I trade 2 to 1 or 2R, so 2 times my risk. So here I'm using my 2R calculator, which you can download from the Facebook trading group page, Trading Armor, for free. And that gives me my profit target. So I move my bracket order down to, my profit target order down to 498. So I have my hotkey set up. I show it in a previous video how to set the hotkeys up with these bracket orders built in, and I have them set to minus 10% and plus 20%. That way I automatically have a 2 to 1 risk to reward ratio, and they're spread out very far away from where the current price is trading, and I can move them into position as soon as I know where my stop loss and profit target is. You don't want them really tight because if the stock is very volatile, it could just stop you out immediately as you get in the trade. You might notice another order open over here. This is my swing trade. This is what I used to do with Chase, and I'm now doing that with Webull, so that's why it's showing a position and a stop. There was a little bit of an error on that entry, and I'm going to go over that on another video, but so far that trade is in the green for the day, but it's a swing trade, so it should be a multi-day, probably multi-month trade if it goes anything like the last one did. The last one I started with March 25th, and it it stopped me out yesterday for $1.84, I believe, or 83 per share profit. All right, so here I'm just making some notes for myself. I'm not really worried about what the price is doing because I have those bracket orders in place. So I'm just writing down that it was number 3 on the top gainers and it was number 12 on the active volume. Just good statistics to track. I should probably add that to my spreadsheet as well, and then I can kind of calculate what maybe the top 10 is a higher percentage than say the top 20 or something like that. Then we can make this even more selective as far as the criteria to pick a stock to trade. So this is going to be interesting right here, what happens, because look, my profit target is 498, and then you see it went up to about 496, and now it's reversing. Let me fast forward a little bit because it does take a little bit of time here to finish up. You can see what's happening. It's pulling back. Now, months ago, when I was a newer trader, I would get scared that, hey, this thing went so close to my profit target, it's coming back down against me, it's going to stop me out, and I'm giving up all this profit. Let me just drag this thing down and give up 4 or 5 cents, whatever, on the trade, turning a 2R trade into a 1R trade, or maybe if I'm lucky a 1.5R trade. And the problem with that is as soon as you take your next trade and you hold all the way to your stop, now you're screwing up. Well, you're screwing up your statistics for one thing, because your plan says that you must hold to 2R. So you don't really know if what you're doing works unless you actually do it. You have to follow your plan and your rules. And then at the end of your test trading, or the end of your month, or whatever you're looking at, you're going to know, hey, is this really working or not? Because at least you're doing the right thing. Well, back in the day, I would get scared and I would pull this down, and then if the next stock fails, it really eats into your profit. So with the 2R trading, one win can cancel out two losers. But if I pull this profit target down earlier, then it's going to take a couple of wins to cancel out a loser, or 3 wins, or whatever. So that's the idea behind that. You know, once you decided what your trade plan is going to be, you just stick to it. You don't worry about what the price is doing. And then you just take either the, so here I got filled at my profit target, which is great, but I could have definitely, been stopped out there as well. And either way, it would have been fine, because obviously I'd rather the trade in green, but at least I have accurate data as to whether this strategy and this plan is working in the long run. So right now, this is my very first trade with this new screener strategy. If you were watching my previous videos, you know I was doing 100 test trades with a different screener strategy, and I decided to scratch that only because the premise was flawed and I didn't realize it in the beginning. I thought if I looked at the top gainers list organized by volume, which you can't do in Webull 5.0, but in Webull 3.0 I was able to do that the top 10 stocks by volume were also going to be on this list, but that wasn't really the case. So I decided to update my screener criteria, include this list, because that is going to make it that much more likely that the stock continues to 2R after it breaks its previous high. So this is not going to make it so that you're taking a lot of trades. There are going to be days that go by where there are no trades to take, but I'd rather do that than take a bunch of trades and be break even or be red on the month, at the end of the month. So, and that's pretty much what I was doing before. I was just hovering around break even, slightly profitable, with that other strategy where I was just looking at top gainers by volume. So, all right, so that's everything with that trade, and let's just take a look really quick at the spreadsheet. So this is a new spreadsheet with this new testing that I'm doing with that new screener criteria that I just talked about. So Prpo, that's the only trade we took today. Obviously, the swing trade is not going to go on here because that has nothing to do with this strategy. It's just coincidental that I'm using Webull for it, because it is much better at anything than Chase or any other trading system. So you can see, obviously, my average win rate right now is 100% because I've only taken one trade and it worked. So that doesn't mean a whole lot at this point. It's just one trade. So we need to get 100 to 100 trades before we know for sure if this thing actually works or not. But it's always nice to start off green. So anyway, let me know if you have any questions about this trade or about this strategy. And as always, go into every trade, no matter what your criteria is or what your plan is, make sure you have a plan. Stick to your stop losses. No matter what type of style you're trading, you should be using stop losses. I don't care what anyone else says. And always take your stop losses, honor your profit target, and in the long run, you should be green. Take care.